guys? Princess India here for the 99, the 2000 whatnot or whatever. Yeah. So this is the whole thing that's happening now. Okay. So I'm being made an example out of, you know. If you've been watching for the last 2 months, that's happened a lot during readings where things always somehow end up turning into me having an epiphany midway through the reading of like, oh wow, I do that, and giving a personal example from my life. Well, the reason why I'm making this video is literally no different. So if you follow me on social media, then you guys have seen my stories and seeing that I'm working on the November readings and whatnot or whatever. But I had to stop because I mentioned in somebody's reading in October, I think I said it in passing, but probably I think this was Aquarius when it might have been an Aquarius in their extended where Spirit made this very clear. And I was supposed to do this, but I didn't. And I was like, oh, it don't make no sense for me to do it now. I'm just going to start on the November reads and whatnot. So I did Scorpio, I did Taurus, and after I did Taurus, I just kind of got overcome. And like whenever like I'm getting downloads and stuff, and I think I said that like at the end of Taurus's reading, I was like, I'm getting downloads right now. And I was like, it's really hard to focus because I was like, Spirit is saying things that I need to do, and I'm trying to focus on finishing this reading. But, you haven't seen that yet because they're not up yet. But I say all of that to say that during the Aquarius reading for October, I was being led to do something I've never done on the channel before, but what I felt was a really dope idea that I didn't come up with. Can't take credit for, inspiration from Spirit and whatnot. But anyway, of doing a recap, because I noticed with all 12 signs in October and then throughout the history of my channel, and I mean, this is something that happens consistently, but I just feel like in September and October, the synchronicities were very blatant. I would say in October, they were even more blatant. And I was saying, like, with the history of my channel, there's always been like one sign in particular that ends up being made an example out of where they end up having a reading that pretty much encapsulates all 12 signs within their experience, and times where it's been very prominent, like for example with Libra in September, and prior to that, it was Cancer with the woke Cancer reading. I love the way that sounds. With the woke Cancer reading, and then with the Libra reading from September, if I'm not mistaken. And I was saying all signs can watch it because the information that came up would be beneficial to all signs. So throughout the history of my channel, there's always one sign, and for a while it was Sagittarius. There's one sign that kind of steps out, encapsulates all, but it's like their life ends up becoming an example for the 11 other signs. But this month in October, it wasn't really so much a sign standing out above everyone else for me, but there was a very stark consistency with all the readings, so much so that on a note card, I actually jotted down the synchronistic themes that were in all 12 signs readings, right? So after I finished Taurus, I was sitting down to do another sign, and then, the wave of seriousness, as I call it, comes over me. Because whenever I'm getting downloads about something, it's like my entire demeanor kind of changes, and I'm just like focused and like but if that makes sense. I don't know what focused and means, but whatever. But anywho, so I just kind of took a piece of paper and just started jotting down everything it was that I was hearing. So the whole purpose of me doing this video is because clearly And my subbies know this, you know, when y'all all get in cahoots and start thinking about the same thing or vibrating at the same frequency and things, it comes and knocks on my door and it's like, say something, you know? So that's kind of what it feels like. It was very heavy. So, this in essence is, and this is where it becomes so funny where, because on so many levels. I'm just going to tell y'all, spirit is just something else, you understand? And the sneak peek that I can give you about Taurus's November reading is they had the Seven of Swords as one of their cards. And I was telling them how I used to, because I think every single reader has like one particular card that makes them feel some type of way. And with the Seven of Swords, that was my card at one point in time. Like every time that card would come up, I was just like, meh, you know what I mean? But it was a few months ago, and those of you who, you know, watch my channel consistently, y'all know when this epiphany came, when Spirit gave me a whole nother perception of the Seven of Swords, and ever since then, I've absolutely loved when the card showed up. And that's one of the energies that was kind of piggybacked off of, because with the Seven of Swords, the inspiration I got about that card is that what you skip will trip you up later, right? And that's pretty much the overall energy for every single thing that came out after that. So in essence, we can go ahead and call this our, you know, inaugural October soul session, you know, woke October. I don't know. We're going to come up with something cool. The woke October recap or something along those lines, something like that. But it's the October reading recap. So taking all of the themes that were most prominent out of all 12 signs and pulling out bullet points and spiritual messages for you guys, because I know all of my subbies are note takers. I love you guys for that. So if you have a notebook, you might want to, you know, pause me and grab that. You know what I'm saying? Anyway. But giving you guys little tidbits of information, and then the last portion of what I have to share with you is it was a very specific message that I got for Aquarius this month that I'm gonna share with you guys. And then there is 8 reflection questions, and I'm assuming that I mean, clearly I'm recording this on Friday, and it's literally going to come out today because I feel, you know, the charge under my butt to like get this out ASAP. So by the time you guys watch this and you have these questions, and why I really feel like Spirit is leading me to do this right now is because I feel having this information and going into the November readings, I feel that the information that comes out in the November readings is going to be better received with you guys having this information first. So like I said, the last portion of what I'm going to share with you guys at the end of this video is reflection questions. And these questions, they're something. But anywho, so I'm just going to go over, and I'm just going to tell y'all now. Whenever I'm getting channeled messages and I write these daddies down, first of all, my handwriting is horrendous. So bear with me as I read these things, because it's all shorthand. And I don't even know if it makes sense because I ain't read it yet. Because as soon as I finished, I just turn the camera on because I like to stay in the same frequency, you know? But anywho, and then I might pull some cards too. Because I got like if y'all saw all the decks, that's like right here. Y'all would probably talk about me. But anyway, moving right along. So, this is going to be interesting. All right. First message that I got was, many have lost their way and abandoned their paths. And when I heard that, I was like, But it says for good reason. Okay. The next thing, it was a series of songs that I got. And it's interesting. Well, all 4 of these songs come from the same album, and it's something that you guys, if you've been with my channel for a while, you know that I refer to this a lot. this particular album, The Wall by Pink Floyd, right? That album, because I practice Gestalt therapy, and every Gestaltist out there loves The Wall because it pretty much outlines why it is that people come into therapy in so many words, which I just think is so amazing. Like, Pink Floyd is just so creative with it. And the options that I would give you guys is the same that I give to my clients, is to watch the movie. I mean, if you want to listen to the album, do that. But I mean, the movie is in essence the entire album in movie form. You know what I mean? Because the entire album is like a storyline type of deal. So I think they have the movie on YouTube, so you could literally Google or put into YouTube Pink Floyd The Wall. And you know what? To make it easier for you, I might actually link it. Let me write down to do that. I think I'm gonna link it in the description box below this video. And just kind of pay attention. Like, if you're gonna watch it so that you can be fixated on what it is that you're watching. And I mean, even if you want to go as far as, Googling, like getting, not literally buying the album, I mean, unless you want to, but looking at the album. So if you have like Apple Music, I don't know how that works with the whole Android thing, but I know they have like the lyrics with the album in Apple Music. So if you want to kind of follow along with the movie and maybe read the lyrics first, or, just look at the movie, however you want to do it. But it's those two different ways you can look at it. You can listen to the album, you can read the lyrics, or you can look at the movie. But I would say to make it into like a homework project almost. So if you're going to watch the movie, I would say to watch it when you can really focus and see what themes you're picking up on, or seeing what story that it's telling. Because the main four songs actually that Spirit pointed out to me is Just Another Brick in the Wall, and there's 3 parts of that song on the album, so it's part 1, 2, and 3. And then the last song was Outside of the Wall. So what I gather from this, and what I know like therapeutically of why it is, Gestalty, we like this whole thing, because the whole premise of Gestalt therapy, we're talking about living in the present moment and how our unfinished business, and this is where it gets so funny. Mind you, overall energy, we're talking about the 7 of Swords. What you skip will trip you up later. Make sure that sticks in your mind, my friend. Okay? Now, going into this Pink Floyd album, and why I feel like this came up, is because this album, for my therapeutic approach, is very illustrative of how it is that, like I said, we end up in therapy, but it's mostly how it is that conditioning and wounding and burdens that we carry from other people, or mindsets that we carry from other people, like from our, childhood, so our family dynamics and our family molding. And the way that Pink Floyd explains it is they liken each experience we endure through life that would be quote unquote ultimately 10 of Wands, like burdening energies, burdens. And that's how I look at the 10 of Wands as well, is energetic burdens that you're carrying that aren't your own to carry. Because the only torch that you're responsible for carrying is your Ace of Wands, because that is yours. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so Pink Floyd likens this overburdening process to a wall that every human being builds, right? And it's every experience is just another brick in the wall. So the whole premise of this, and what's told through these 3 songs, and I thought that was also funny because we're talking about like manifestation, like birthing things into being, creation. These are all like threefold triune concepts, right? So there's like, and we're going to get into this whole process thing later, but there's 3 stages to manifestation, there's 3 stages to creation, and so on and so forth. It's like things are created in threes, or series of threes, in so many words. So I'm looking at that, how there's 3 distinct levels that are talked about in these 3 different songs. And it talks about how our family dynamics, our childhood wounding, or conditioning that we receive from our parents or our family of origin is like that first layer of bricks in our wall. How that second layer is our socialization. So that's us leaving the family dynamic and being integrated into society, meaning like our schooling and friendships and things of the sort, right? And then like that third level of wounding is where, in essence, as adults or growing into adults, young adults, after our adolescence, how this void that exists in our being starts to become very ever present and manifest, and how we integrate into our adulthood being disappointed by, job, career, friendships, partnerships, our lives not panning out how we thought, or, realizing that, certain belief systems that we stood on as children or what our parents told us life should be. And God forbid, in the current state that we're in society now with social media, with the FOMO and, why isn't my life like this and all this other kind of stuff, all of these external, forces that are coming in, and all of these being almost what seals our fate, in so many words, of creating this wall. Now, where all of this is important, and then going back a little bit, I'm going to regress a little bit, how that void starts to manifest in our young adulthood of things that are missing. For some of us, it's earlier than that, but something's missing. A lot of times when it comes into a lot of the stuff that we talk about in readings, where it comes to, addictions, whether that be to people like romantic relationships, or it's mindsets like victim mentality, lack mentality, or if it's literally addiction to substances like food or literal drugs, whatever, all of that is an attempt to fill this void that exists within us, right? It's trying to find something to feed it. So if we think about, like in a very, I guess, simplistic sense, if you think about if something is void, if something is empty, one's natural inclination is to fill it, right? So it's more or less the remainder of that wall in our adulthood is solidified by us being on this everlasting quest, this never ending journey to find something to fill this void within, to find something to quench the quenchless thirst. And it's almost as if one's life becomes about filling that void, whether it's through, and I can even say in the sense of achievement, you know what I mean? Of losing more weight or gaining more weight, or, getting muscles, or changing your hair, changing your clothes, or, getting a better paying job, or I want to own a home, or I need a new car. It's this external quest to find external mediums to fill something that is within, in so many words. And that's something that is more or less a collective suffering. That's something that all of humanity suffers with, because, every person alive, it doesn't matter, race or creed or whatever, it's man's search for meaning. It's like everyone is trying to find something or something to make sense out of this convoluted mess that we call life, in so many words. So that's one part of it. Okay. So, it's those songs, so you can look at that movie or what have you. The next song that came up, which I was very intrigued by, and I really don't know why it is that came up. The only thing that I could see that would be suggested by that song, and I'm gonna link all of this below. That song is "Rooftops" by Kye Kye, and that is probably one of my favorite bands in America. Like, that's like Kye Kye makes all of my meditation music. So if you want to know what I really listen to when I'm trying to get in the spirit, it's Kye Kye. But I thought it was interesting because this comes from their first album, but the song is called "Rooftops." And I feel the reason why I really didn't get too many, like how I got all of that stuff for the Pink Floyd album, with this song, I didn't really get any further intuitive hits on that. And I feel that's because whoever feels led to listen to that song, it's going to mean something to them. and it's going to be something that that person needs to hear. But the most simplistic format I could put in is more or less speaking to one's relationship with spirit, or how spirit speaks to us. But this song is more or less like a celebration of that. So I don't feel necessarily that everyone will resonate with that, but the people who do, I feel like it's going to be kind of like a key into a lock in a sense. Now, going into that, another thing that I have here is, ooh, what is that? Oh, okay. I already said that. Okay. So the next thing that I have a little bullet point is align with a tribe. So, and what I can say for that, because I know, and this is something I was actually writing about yesterday, because for those of you who have been looking for pathology, it's like I launched pathology because I wanted to see if you guys dug it, but pathology is just one part of a larger system, you know? And I'm rolling out with that larger system. But I was writing about this yesterday for I don't even remember what part of it was, but it was for something with pathology. I honestly couldn't tell you right now because my brain is like, it's like almost like I have sticky notes on different parts of my brain. But anywho, I was talking about the importance of community. And something that I can say for my own personal journey is that, and where this kind of ties in with, I believe, like the overall lesson is for all of us, is that in my journey to where I am now, like my whole spiritual quest and everything, I never had a mentor. I never had a teacher. The closest that I ever had to that in a spiritual sense was my Reiki master. And, who, introduced me, inducted me into Reiki and all of the levels. But as far as my own spiritual quest, I didn't have anyone who spoke to where I was. So I look at now, like even being a part of the whole, metaphysical, tarot, esoteric form of YouTube. I wish that something like this existed back in the G for me, because it would have made this process so much easier. Oh my gosh. But it's for good reason, because I had to do a lot more legwork. And the downside of that is, like, although I have a plethora of information on countless, religions and schools of thought and, ancient processes and symbolism and, esoteric mysticism and things of the sort, I'm a well of information because I had to, like I said, do all of this legwork for myself. Right? And the benefit of that is that I get to share this stuff with you guys to prevent you from having to spend hours at a time in libraries and reading all these books and things. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, the thing that lacked from my journey greatly, that I know now is of great benefit, and I say that in the sense of one's spiritual development as well as one's personal development. And I say that more or less like putting my therapist hat on temporarily, is I pair a lot of times individual therapy with group therapy, because I feel that individual therapy is imperative because I feel like that's sacred space for an individual to curate, cultivate self. Yet, when we're taking what it is that's done in a therapeutic setting with, client and their therapist, we want to take all of the skills and the self-knowledge and apply that to everyday life, because the setting between client and therapist is very unrealistic. You know what I mean? It's like in real world relationships, people are not going to listen to you like a therapist does, right? Like without judgment, letting you be who you are, you being who you are and saying what you say, not affecting the therapist. And I say that not just for me, but for you, especially anybody who's, I got a whole bunch of social workers and therapists and things that watch me. But for y'all, and for those of you who have been in therapy, it's like you guys understand that dynamic. So I think it's always important that towards the ending of a client's therapy process, I integrate them into group so that they understand how to work with people who have similar struggles. And it's a safe space because if, you know, these are people who are dealing with the same issues, like say hypothetically, if it's trauma or if it's grief and loss, and you have, you know, 5 people who are doing individual counseling for grief and loss, you put them all into a group, right? When they're going through their process or towards the tail end of their process, there's a commonality on the fact that we've all lost someone, but there's different personalities within this group. So it's a safe space in the sense that there's respect and there's boundaries because we all have that same pain, but it's a safe space to start learning how to integrate those skills with other people, right? So I say that to say that it's the same thing with spiritual development as well. And that's the reason why with every platform that I'm on, whether it's, you know, Patreon or it's on Facebook, I have countless groups on Facebook, and my patrons know we have different little chat rooms for each tier that we have over on Patreon. And I stress that, and I think probably the most successful group that I have to date, and shout out to everyone there, especially Darius, who tagged me in a post. I'm not going, y'all. I just got 150 things going on. You know what I'm saying? But my most successful group to date is Twins R Us on Facebook, which is my Twin Flames group. I think out of all of the groups that I have started, that one is the most, I mean, integrated, successful, interactive out of all of my groups over on Facebook. But and that's beautiful because, I mean, all of you who are familiar with the whole Twin Flame process, and a lot of people who are over there can vouch for that. Like when they were going through that whole process, like, you know, separation or whatever, it was very healing for a lot of people in that group to have people who are going through what they were going through, especially with the twin flame journey, because that's something that a lot of people who are outside of that dynamic couldn't begin to fathom. And I feel it was very healing for so many people in that group at the fact that they've connected and built relationships with people that understand their struggle. So I say that to say, with this little bullet point we have about aligning with a tribe, why that's so important during your process is for that reason that I would say the twin flame group is a perfect example of, is the fact that, or like what I said was lacking in my journey, it's the fact that as you're going through this process, it's wonderful to do it solo dolo, because I did it. But something that I can say that I wish that I had, that I get to live vicariously through all of you guys, is having that sense of community, being able to talk to someone who's having dreams like me, or getting downloads, or a person who is learning their spiritual gifts, or, you know, just learning tarot, or trying to tune into their clairvoyance, or trying to, you know, survive being an empath, and having other people who are having these same experiences, so you don't feel so much like a black sheep or the odd man out, or, you know, is something wrong with me? Like, is this normal? Am I going crazy? You know what I'm saying? So I feel that communal aspect is so important. So I stress to you guys to find a tribe, whether it's in any of my groups, whether it is, you know, in your neighborhood, you know, your city, because I know Meetup is a really dope app, and they have like different little circles or whatever. But I think something that should be integrated onto you guys' path that's going to be of great help and support to you will be aligning with a tribe. Now, the next thing that came up was something that's lacking in the collective's life at large is principles for living. So, in so many words, and I know there's a lot of my subbies who have left organized religion. And I always say that, because I mean, I myself, I used to be in church. Y'all know that whole story. But something that I say is that a lot of times when we leave organized religion, And I say it like this because y'all know I have crazy ways of saying things. It's like we throw baby Jesus out with the bathwater, you know? And that's not necessary. It's like when you're looking at the structure of organized religion, not aligning with that, that's totally cool. But something that I found, and I've spoken on this before, something that I find lacks a lot in the spiritual community, like at least, and I can't say for all people, but I mean for people that I've worked with a lot of people that I've worked with, like doing readings for them or just doing consultations with them in reference to like personal growth matters. The main thing that I found what lacked in their life are exactly what this is: principles for living. So it's, being in an organized religion and having guidelines on how to live your life, because, Christianity has the 10 commandments, or Buddhism has like, the eightfold path or whatever. And it's like you have these do's and don'ts, like stay in this lane, don't go in this lane. This is team Jesus, that's team devil, stay away from over there. But it gives you boundaries to know, like, okay, this is what I should be doing, this is what I shouldn't. Now, a lot of people that I've worked with, and like I say, I can't say that for everyone, but what I've found with a lot of people I've worked with, just strictly under the umbrella of spirituality, is that whatever belief system they left behind, it was throwing, and not necessarily saying everybody was Christian, but I just call it that, throwing baby Jesus out with the bathwater. So it's kind of like leaving behind a church system or, organized religion, whatever, but it's also leaving behind those principles for living. And I feel that's where people kind of get lost. And where, like, how the first message was many have lost their way, right? And have abandoned their paths. It's because of throwing baby Jesus out with the bathwater. So it's throwing those principles for living out. And those principles for living are needed just to give you boundaries of what's in your highest good and what's not, and what the ultimate goal you're achieving is, in so many words. So what we're really talking about, because literally how these messages came, dude, it is amazing, because it's going back to that void. This is almost like a deconstruction process of what all 12 signs readings were. It's a deconstruction process to unearth the thing that's been skipped that keeps tripping every sign up. And the thing that keeps tripping every sign up is the void, right? And trying to fill that void with things that aren't truly filling. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a temporary patch. So if you think about a gaping hole in the ground, it's like putting a piece of plywood. These quick fixes are putting a piece of plywood over this hole. And you think about the more people, constantly walk over it, it's going to make the plyboard weaker and weaker until some unlucky soul is going to walk over it and fall into it. You know what I mean? So this is more or less like the recipe on how to start to fill this void. So if we want to look at practical application for principles for living, and I actually said this, I think in Scorpio's reading for November, but I talked about a good place to start is like the laws of karma, the laws of the universe. And like, that's in the sense of like spiritual universe, or like, the laws of physics in so many words, or looking at the Hermetic principles. And it's like, these are things that are unchangeable about life in totality. And especially like with the laws of physics, these are laws that everything in existence has to honor. So if you don't want to, or you're not ready to go into like a spiritual discipline, I feel that's a good place to start, because that helps to integrate into the next thing that Spirit said, which is there's a need to understand seasons, processes, structure, and order, right? So learning like just the laws of physics help you to integrate that. Looking at nature helps you to start to integrate that. So if we bring in this idea of the mirror effect, right, that everything on a macro level and on a micro level are reflecting each other, right? So what's happening, as above, so below, what's happening up here is occurring down here. If you look at the fact that there's 4 seasons, And the fact that this works like clockwork, right? Or the law of the harvest, sowing and reaping, So you put a seed into a ground, you water it, you give it light, you give it plant food. It's like the seed's going to grow into a crop that has to be harvested and so on and so forth. So there's seasons and there's processes to everything. So and the thing that Spirit said after that is the root of chaos is a lack of discipline, structure, and order. So how I'm understanding this is it's more or less giving the collective a leg up, because it's a lot of things seem chaotic and disastrous when they really don't have to be. If you look at something as simple as the guiding principles of like the laws of physics, what goes up must come down, cause and effect, you know what I mean? Looking at simple things like that. So you start to understand how and why things are happening the way that they're happening. And then when you know that everything in nature, except for humanity, abides by these laws without resisting it, it's going to make you more cognizant of the actions that you're taking. So this is more or less how you live a life of, or choose things that are, higher vibration or in service to you. It's more or less bringing that very lofty conceptual idea into a very experiential sense, right? Because if, I say karma, what goes around comes around. If I look at that as the physical law of cause and effect, then I know without the shadow of a doubt that whatever I put out has to come back to me. It has to, because it's the law of the universe. There's nothing woo-woo about it. There's nothing magical about it. You know what I mean? There's nothing to hide from. It's like whatever form it comes back, energy is energy. It may take another manifestation when it comes back, but it will come back. Even if we're doing it to ourselves. What you skip will trip you up later, right? Now, if we put this into even more of a very practical format, we could say this in the sense of finances, right? If, I don't know, you stop paying your student loans, or you stop paying on a credit card, or, you borrowed money from a friend and you're not paying them back. And these are things where it seems like you're getting away with it because you're not paying the consequences for it at present. But say you fast forward a couple of months and I don't know, the property that you're renting, the landlord now wants to put it up for sale, and your only option is to move into an apartment building. But because you stop paying, your student loans, or you stop paying on your credit cards, your credit score plummeted, and now you can't qualify for the apartment because your credit score is so low. You know what I mean? So what you skipped tripped you up later, if you want to look at it in a very practical sense. So this is more or less in like something I was saying a lot this month about keeping your nose clean. So when we're talking about how it is that we're posturing ourselves to enter November, it's more or less looking at the areas in your life where you've been kind of skipping things. And the thing that keeps you in order to deal with this is, and I feel like the overall message in this is understanding synchronicity and understanding process and how reciprocal energies work. It's like you can't ever get away with doing something. And I'm saying this, getting away with something. And that example would be like not paying your credit card bill. That's getting away with something. You know what I mean? And it's almost saying that like keeping your nose clean is going about things the right way, because that becomes a deterrent energy to what it is that you're trying to build. It's like if you're trying to build abundance and you feel like, oh, paying these debts off now, like all my money is just going to be going to interest and this and that, however you want to rationalize it, right? But the thing you're not realizing is this is an energy of discord that you're continuously carrying with you. And it's like a disease in so many words. It's a bad seed in the bunch. So no matter, and because this is an energy of chaos, confusion, calamity, discord, and lack, because it's a negative sign, right? It's debt, you being indebted to something or someone else, if you're trying to build abundance, it's like you're constantly working against the grain because you have this energy of debt that's lingering around as you're trying to build abundance. And that's the reason why it may seem for a lot of you a resistance where it's like, I just can't ever get out of a situation. Now, the reason why a lot of this stuff has happened is because Spirit has been trying to get everyone to turn around and to look at what it is that you've skipped. What is it that you've been ignoring? What is it that you've been putting off until later? So when we talk about going back to like bare bones basics of things, it's more or less to halt whatever it is that you guys are working towards. And it's to kind of pause right now and look back at what it is that you know that you're ignoring or that you're saying you're going to do later. Because whatever that thing is, that thing that you skipped, whatever that is in your life, that is the thing that has been inadvertently sabotaging your success this entire time. Now, in the bigger picture of things, the reason why I feel all of this is coming up, why I feel we're having this conversation now, or seeing the energy that that is coming up going into November, and looking at November, our wonderful number 11, seeing that as a threshold, a gateway to a new beginning in so many words. And a lot of you, it was the same theme of saying how there's a need for clarity, authenticity, standing in one's truth, because what is back here can't be carried into this new cycle. I know that can sound very ominous and all these other kind of things, but I feel that this is very tangible and practical, right? So anywho, the last little tidbit we have here is the Great Awakening, the end of sleepwalking. And there's a stress on needing to be cognizant of what you're doing and why. And that's so important. That's why I love these messages. Hashtag Taurus Earth sign. I need stuff to be practical. You know what I'm saying? But the whole thing is here, man. When we talk about woke, like how, you know, all the extendeds, it's woke September, woke October, me being the woke therapist, all of that is talking about awakening. It's talking about awareness, like being here, being present in the moment, taking the blinders off of your eyes, needing to see who you are, where you are, and what you're doing. Understanding that, yes, there are X factors in life, but everything is very much in your control to some way or another, even if it's something as simplistic of how you think about it, right? But the thing that's so important and the thing that's so empowering, like I've said to you guys before about, you know, the crossroads and how we're manifesting every day through the choices that we're making. It's like the absolute least you can do for yourself is be cognizant and aware of where you are, what you're doing, and why, right? So what we're looking at here is, if you're looking at where you are in your life, simply ask yourself that question. Start becoming aware of, where am I? What am I doing? And why am I doing it? Y'all, I am so scared. The message just came up that says my disk is almost full, and I'm going to be so mad if this doesn't record. So I'm going to stop this video and start it over. 1 second. Whew. It's saved. I was legitimately terrified. I saw that and I said, oh my goodness. Spirit, if I spent all this time doing this and not recording these readings, and if this didn't record, I'd have passed out. If this last portion doesn't record, I would be okay with re-recording this, because we're getting into our reflection questions now. But all that other stuff, I'd have been hurt. But anyway, moving right along. So, like I was saying, that's what the big awakening is. With everything that you guys have experienced individually as the 12 signs this month, the whole purpose of it, like if it was Tower Moments, it was to shake you awake, to get you to wake up, get out of autopilot, and literally look at your life. What are you doing and why are you doing it, right? Why are you working here? You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you're responding like this to stuff. Why? How do you feel that this is going to get you to your end goal? So it's more or less a sobering moment, and the most simplistic way to just become present and aware of your immediate surroundings. Who are you? Where are you? And what are you doing? Right? Now, lastly, going into our reflection questions, my friend. So if you don't already have your notebook, get it out now, because these are questions. You don't have to answer them now. You know what I'm saying? But these are things that I want you guys to reflect on. And not necessarily just me wanting, and I can't say it like that, but it's more or less these are things that I feel are going to behoove you all to reflect on going into November and before you watch your specific sign reading for November. So the first thing that I'm sharing with you guys is the quote that I got for Aquarius in their reading for October. And it says, each one of your values is a brick on the path towards your personal fulfillment. Each one of your values is a brick on the path towards your personal fulfillment. So when we're looking at the meaning of this, it's pretty much saying that the first core foundation upon which you build your life, or a life that is in alignment with truth in so many words, or your specific truth, the ideal foundation to build one's life on is their values. Because each one of those values that make up the foundation of who you are, or your lifestyle, what you stand for, what you believe in, so on and so forth, each of these creates the path to your fulfillment. Because when you know your values, you stand on your values and walk on these values as your path forward, right? You acting in accordance with your truth, what you build your life on, that's the fast track to you being fulfilled, aka your 10 of Cups in so many words. Your full on ideal emotional state, right? Because there's a synchronicity, there's a balance, there's a reciprocal give and take. So it's more or less, regardless of X factors that come onto your path, it's the fact that you can't be swayed because you know what you're standing on, and there's no desire to stand on anything other than those values. Now, coming into these questions, right? First, this isn't actually a question per se, but it's pretty much saying what it is that we're tasked with awakening to this October. So this is our woke October recap. This is what it is that we get woke to in so many words, right? So when it comes into talking about our values, we can say that, we can say, oh yeah, the foundation of my life is built on my values. And it's like, what are your values? And usually, I don't think I've ever met another adult who off GP was able to spit their values off, right? This is something that I realized on my own personal growth process, which is the reason why, I explain things to you guys the way that I do, is because these are all elements that I realized on my personal growth journey that were lacking, right? I literally... Because when we use words so much, they lose their meaning. We lose the conviction behind them, and we water them down when they become, overused in so many words. And values is one of those words. It's like, oh, I know what my values are. Just like a person could be like, oh, I love myself. Of course yes, I self-love. But you ask a person, what does that look like? What are the tangible action steps for one to love themselves? And people usually can't answer that, right? Or if we look at it in the sense of forgiveness, that was another thing on my personal journey, is I asked a myriad of different people, like, what does forgiveness mean? And I would get a myriad of different explanations, but it was never anything that I could stick my teeth into, because it's like, well, if I'm learning how to forgive people, it's like, me just saying, I forgive you, or, praying every night, Lord, please help me forgive them. That's not taking the anger and bitterness away. So what is the process for this, right? Because every single concept, every single school of thought should translate into a theory. and then a process that can be practically applied. If it doesn't, it's not of any use to us. And I mean, I can't say that for everybody, but I mean for me personally, because I'm just a grounded person, I have no value in lofty conceptual thoughts. That does nothing for me. It's like, I can understand this conceptually, but if this isn't making my experience better or, improving my quality of life, it's neither here nor there for me. Like, I would rather just not know the concept if it can't do anything to improve my life. So I say all of that to say, a lot of research that I did on my own journey was on words like forgiveness or, personal values, because these are things that I felt like needed to be reintroduced into our reality and our personal development processes, because these are tenets of a person's identity and personhood and development. Because it's pretty much like, I don't know if y'all know what a roux is. My people from New Orleans do. I think my French people do, because we kind of took that from y'all, but it's neither here nor there. But it's like a roux, which would be the base flavoring for like a cooking recipe. It's like values and things of the sort are those basic tenets, like the flavoring for your identity development, for your personal development, in so many words. So these are things that need to be known, and not in a, passive kind of sense, like, I value self-love and forgiveness, but I don't really understand what those concepts really mean or how to practically apply them in so many words. So the first question that we have is, what are your core values? That's reflection question number 1. If you don't know what those are, you can answer that question however you feel led to answer it. But if you don't know what your core values are, then you can go over to my website, and on my website I have a values exercise that you guys can do yourself, that I use with my clients on how to unearth your core values. And if I can do this before I post this, which I think that I can, because I'm a beast in these streets, a lot of people can do it, but a lot of people were asking if I could do this with them. I think I'm going to do a webinar on this. So I think I'm going to go ahead and put a sign up sheet over on my website too. So, after you watch this, go over there. You guys can do the exercise yourself. And if you want to sign up for the webinar, then go ahead and do that on the website. But let's get back to these questions, because I didn't had y'all here long enough. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, and I'm hoping that this records. But okay, so question number 1 is, what are your core values? Question number 2 is, what is truth? What is your truth? How do you live it? Question number 3, how do you define authenticity? Are you authentic? What's stopping you from being authentic? How can you align more with your authenticity? Question number 4, what are you passionate about? What is your purpose, calling, or mission? Why do you believe you are here? I told y'all these questions got extra deep, okay? Number 5, integrity means acting in accordance with your values. Are you practicing integrity? Number 6, what path are you on? Where are you coming from? Where are you going? Number 7, what are your personal goals for November? And they can be general, or you can break them down into like career, relationships, finance, personal growth, whatever. It's up to you. And lastly, number 8, what needs to change in your life? What needs your immediate attention? What is out of balance? Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, man. I started to like repeat those, but I was like, no, y'all can just like double tap, because if you wrote them down first time, you're gonna be like, is she really about to say them again? But I'm gonna go ahead and pull some cards for y'all just because, dagnabbit son of a gun, even though I know this was information overload, but y'all let me know in the comments if you dig this, because I don't think that this is just an October thing of why Spirit led me to do this. I just really feel that this is something that would be beneficial for everyone. Just because of the way that, my intentions with my readings, I like that you guys are entertained, but my overall intention for all of these readings that I do here on YouTube and on every other platform is just to kind of be a sounding board to you guys' overall growth and development. And I think that it's imperative because we have so many distractions day to day, God forbid, month to month, where a lot of the information that, hit you like a dart when you listen to a reading for the first time, a lot of that information can be written in a notebook and forgotten, or, the information can be there ever present and then just kind of wander to the back of your mind. So I think this is a good thing to revisit. And then just the simple fact that we're all connected. When there's synchronicities like this, I think it's so, imperative for the collective where we can learn from each other and see how we're all kind of under that same umbrella. Oh, this is fascinating. We have the divine feminine. And it says the frequency of divine feminine supports our receptive, nurturing, and soft side, allowing it to express itself openly and helping us to connect to our intrinsic understanding of our connection to all of creation. Oh, that's so important. Because when we talk about a lot of the stuff we're talking about here, all of these things we're talking about the world of form and matter, right? And when we talk about the divine feminine energy, we're talking about the essence that is devoid of that, right? So this is the formless world. It is the no thing, that the, all things came out of, right? It's the eternal zero in so many words. And I think this is so funny because I just realized this card number is 21. If you add 2 and 1, you got 3. And we talked about the whole thing about threes and the triune and all that good stuff. But anyway, moving right along. But it's the no thing. So it's the fluidity, the flow, the energetic flow that's existing behind all material things of the 3D form world. And there needing to be a balance with both. So this is what I'm more or less seeing, is that the energy has been a lot of action oriented, energy, but it's more or less prior to going into November and starting a whole new, bullet point list of to-dos and goals and things of the sort. It's more or less utilizing the remainder of this month, especially going into Samhain on the 31st, Halloween, favorite holiday. Anyway, moving right along. When the veil is thin, just saying anyway. Moving right along. But using this time to really sit in the essence of your divine feminine energy, which is very receptive and more or less communing with spirit and getting clear, reflecting and pondering on these things so that you know how to take action once November comes in. And then we're thinking about the fact that we're going into the retrograde and all of that stuff. So you don't really want to act on nothing too much anyway, you know what I'm saying? But it's taking this time, specifically with us going into this retrograde, to really create your battle plan. But it's like creating it or co-creating it with spirit in so many words. So, and that's what that means with coming from an authentic place. It's like you doing your due diligence of understanding in the 3D sense, like your personhood, your choices, perceptions, and things of the sort that have contributed to choices that led us into where we stand now. But it's more or less allowing spirit to become a part of that creation process, and even looking at it when it comes to like a tribe, allowing people into that process, Like nurturing and community is a very feminine energy. So you guys will go forward into this month with a different battle plan that's more balanced, in so many words. So I'm going to pick a card, okay, and it picked itself. From the Work Your Light Oracle, I'm going to pick one from my favorite oracle, well, my second favorite, the Power of Surrender. And then the last one I'm going to pick from is going to be from the spirit animal thingamajigger. All of these synchronicities are interesting. This is so fascinating. Are you guys Gucci? I'm saying it like y'all can answer. Whoa. Okay, and I'm going to pick one more. I promise I'm going to stop after that. I don't think y'all mind, right? Y'all don't mind? I think I just heard Usher in my head. And I don't mind. Sorry. That is really not relevant to... That's not a message from Spirit. That was all me. But you guys definitely let me know in the comments if you feel like this was helpful. And if you guys want me to continue this. I'd like to think that it was... Oh. The synchronicities abound in this beach. So the Work Your Light Oracle says you're already doing it. Dang-nabbit, son of a gun. Stop overthinking. Keep facing your true north. And for some of you, that may be your north node. So look in your birth chart and see where that is. And the things that it says that you're supposed to be strengthened in this life, do that. I'm just saying, right? So this, in so many words, is talking about when we're saying our path, there is nowhere else to go. There's nothing else to do. There's nowhere else to be, right? I think that is the biggest revelation of life. I remember when I had that epiphany, it wasn't by myself. It was literally in the form of a vision, and Spirit was telling me like to stand on my street, and my hand was in front of my face like this, right? It's like, what do you see? And I was like, nothing. What do you see? Nothing, Spirit. I see nothing. I just see a fist in my face. And Spirit was like, open your hand a little bit. So I did. And Spirit was like, what do you see? And I was like, I see a tree. Right? And then Spirit's like, open your hand a little more. And Spirit's like, what do you see? And I was like, I see another tree. Opened it some more. I saw a car. Then I saw a street. And then I saw a house. Right? And it's like the more that I opened, I saw more and more. And Spirit said that that is your path of development. That's what awakening is. And I was like, what? So it was the realization that on our path, we aren't really going anywhere because there's nowhere to go, right? We're literally standing still. We're not going anywhere. The only thing that changes is what it is that we can see, what it is that we're aware of. What began as nothing, which is when you sleep, you know what I'm saying? You grow in awareness to where you're able to see more facets of the picture, and it grows and continues to expand. And the thing about that is it doesn't just stop like when your hand is removed. It's like there's so many different facets and elements and intricacies of each element. Like there's so many different facets of just that tree or just that street or, you know, the house, the picture as its whole on a macro level and a micro level. So we're always expanding our awareness, but any energy that one has is too much of a masculine energy if it becomes this fight or climb for achievement or attempting to get or go somewhere, because that's the biggest illusion of life. It's the fact that you will climb the staircase and the staircase leads to nowhere. You will get to the top of the staircase and realize there's nothing there because there was never anywhere to go in the first place. The whole key is what's very counterintuitive, and it's mastering what it is that you have here. So like I said in the beginning, if we talk about all 12 signs and all of the readings saying that it's not about achieving or running away from or gaining more, it's about stopping where you are and turning around to come to the realization that everything that it is that you need to go forward, you were already presently in possession of, or it's throughout your past from lessons and experiences that we may not have garnered from our past, but everything that you need is in the present moment, right? So you're already doing it. Everything that you've done up to this point, and it's like almost realizing like how we talk about many have lost their way and abandoned their paths for good reason, because it's a need to understand, it's a need to step away, to step off, to see what it is that you've been doing up to this point. It's like a sobering reality to be like, whoa, I'm awake, I'm here. This is what's going on, so that you guys can gain dominion and control over your lives. Now, the next card that we have is Surrender to Creativity. And it says, let your imagination soar. Stay open to all creative ideas about how to pursue a dream or solve a problem. That's the barriers that are being broken. That's rehearsing this divine feminine energy, because that is an energy of creativity and our synchronicities of threes and things of the sort. It's taking the number 2, which would be the union within oneself, and birthing something out. You know, so it's more or less cultivating balance within to create a new being, that of which is you. Again, these are all things that we're doing internally. This is internal work. And we're breaking down barriers. We're breaking down bondage. We're breaking down conditioning and inauthenticity so that we can birth something into being that's very true and innate of us, in so many words. Next, we have Condor. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why it's like I said that and I got a vision of like the English Navy. I don't know. My visions be set up weird. Anywho, it says you're too enmeshed in this situation. So step back. Oh, this is so amazing. You're too enmeshed in this situation. So step back and see the bigger picture before making any decisions or taking action. What the heck did I just say? Oh my gosh, I love when this happens. I'm just saying in America. Moving right along. Last card, we have sexual energy. That is the energy of creation. We're talking about your good old sacral chakra. You know what I'm saying? Talking about a little tantric energy. You know what I'm saying? That's all the energy of creation. So it says for sexual energy, in the purest sense, sexual energy is not an energy to be expanded from you. It is a state to reside in. The first and second chakras, y'all know I call chakras that, are the root of our sexual feelings. When you use this very potent energy to manipulate people and situations, you are doing yourself a huge disservice. When you expand your life force energy up from your first 2 chakras and incorporate the energy with your heart and your crown, you can experience the most complete and divine experience of sexual energy possible. This doesn't even have to include another person. When you can merge your connection to creator, with your connection to the earth, I totally was just saying that. This is so awesome. Without any filters or blocks between the two, you will experience a complete and true connection. We act as the conduit between heaven and earth, and when we can put ourselves into this energy at any given time, we are not tempted to use our sexual energy in a way that feeds our need for validation, nor are we easily manipulated by another's outputting of sexual energy. This card is asking you to look at where sexual energy is directed in your life. How are you using your sexual energy, person that I love so much? You know what I'm saying? And what's not. Or whatever. So, that's all I got for you guys, man. I lied. There's one more thing, and my phone's about to die. So if it dies before I'm able to read it to you, I said this in the November readings, but I feel like this is very relevant now since we're talking about creation energy, but it's something I was writing earlier today, and it was about freedom of energy and like channeling it. And it says that the key to true growth is freedom. Freedom of one's own energy. Freedom from the addictions, bad habits, temptations, and limitations. This allows one's energy to be unbound and thus in flow with the universe. So to kind of sum all of this up, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about the practical way to get unbound. So whether that's in mindset, whether that's in finances, or whatever facet of your life it's in, the whole month of October is pretty much an ode to dismantling the chains that bind. It's showing you how to get out of the grips of the proverbial devil. You know what I'm saying? And whatnot, or whatever. But that's all I have for you, my wonderful people. This was wonderful. Let me know what you think in the comments. I love your freaking face. I hope this information was helpful. You know what I'm saying? And I will see you guys in your November reads. Keep an eye out for that. I love your face. Deuces.